What's up, everybody? Holly Wolf here once again with another episode in our gaming history series. After covering Zelda, Mario, Nintendo, and even PlayStation, the most requested videos were for Sonic and Pokemon. In this episode, we will be focusing on Sonic the Hedgehog, but be sure to comment below and let us know your thoughts on the games listed and which franchises you would like to see us focus on in the future. First on our list is Sonic the Hedgehog, the animated series video game, which is also known as simply Sonic 16. Following the short-running series The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, DIC Entertainment decided in September of 1993 to make a new Sonic series with a more dramatic and serious tone as opposed to its predecessor. The show ran for 2 seasons on ABC from September 18, 1993 to December 3, 1994. In order to boost the popularity of the Saturday morning cartoon, a video game was developed that was based off the television show for the Sega Genesis, as displayed here by a demo created in November of '93. Developed by Peter Morarek and John Duggan of the Sonic Spinball team, the game's artwork was designed to reflect the style used in the TV show, rather than the style used in the other Sonic games. More specifically, the sprites and level art would be generally larger in size. As for the gameplay itself, Sonic attacks enemies by throwing rings or using rings for special moves, as he can move between the foreground and background. Along with all these unique deviations in gameplay, the story was supposed to be more intricate than previous games in order to keep it in tandem with the TV series. This game would have also been the first major video game appearance of Sally Acorn, a major character from the Saturday morning TV show. Unfortunately, due to the game's slow pace, Yuji Naka gave the demo a thumbs down and the game never saw the light of day past the conceptual stage. However, certain gameplay elements would later turn up in another cancelled Sonic game that will be covered a little later on.
Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episode 3. For years, fans have yearned for a genuine sequel to 1994's Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And just 16 years later, Sega answered their pleas with a game that seemed like the real deal, but unfortunately lacked the spirit of its predecessors. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 was intended to be divided into a trilogy of 3 episodes, each one incorporating the 2D side-scrolling mechanic that made the previous 3 Sonic games so memorable. 2010's Episode 1 and 2012's Episode 2 went on to become moderate successes, receiving generally positive and mixed reviews. Regardless of if the lesser than impressive reaction towards the games was a motivating factor, Sega announced in March of 2012 that Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 3 was not planned to be developed and the project was officially abandoned. Leaving Sonic the Hedgehog 4 as a duology as opposed to the trilogy it was initially conceptualized as. However, at some point a few years later, someone discovered unused cutscene data in Episode 2 with the text, "To be continued," suggesting that Episode 3 was in the cards at one point. A fan recently contacted Sega's former digital brand manager on Facebook about this information, to which he replied, "The unused text was because there was going to be an Episode 3. For reasons I can't discuss, Episode 3 never came to pass. But the idea back during Episode 1 was to make a full trilogy." He further clarified, the project will never see the light of day. This is truly unfortunate for those who were expecting an Episode 3 with a potential inclusion of Knuckles as a playable character. However, it is likely that Sega may have abandoned the idea in order to refine the physics engine of the 2D side-scroller, thus creating a genuine spiritual successor to the original 3 games, much like how Capcom did with Mega Man's 9 and 10. While there is no concrete evidence correlating Episode 3's cancellation with the upcoming release of Sonic Mania, that Sega simply abandoned the failed Sonic 4 project and entrusted a separate third party to do it right, thus leading to the creation of Sonic Mania. Hopefully this upcoming game delivers on the expectations its fans have, and that Sonic 4, unfortunately, was never able to fulfill.
You guys remember the first level in Sonic Adventure 2? Call me biased, but sliding down the slopes of San Francisco causing absolute mayhem while shredding some killer 720s is by far one of the best ways to kick off any video game, let alone a speedy Sonic game. So it's only natural that during this time, when Tony Hawk's skateboarding games were some of the most successful games in the market, Sega saw potential in this Sonic sliding idea becoming its own full-fledged game. Before we got Sonic Riders, there was another skateboarding Sonic game that was to be called Sonic X-Treme, not to be confused with the more widely known cancelled Sonic X-Treme, which will be touched on a little later on. Sonic X-Treme was to be developed for and distributed on the Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2. Developer Visionscape Interactive created the prototype for the futuristic sports game, in which the Blue Blur and Shadow the Hedgehog skate around a level based on Green Hill Zone. Visionscape was known for the game Seablade on Xbox and Tech Deck Bare Knuckle Grind for PC. The San Diego company also worked with Sega on the cinematics for Sonic Heroes. While the game was never officially released, footage of the game was received very poorly by the video game press. Many critics went on to say that the game was terrible, predictably awful, and basically another utterly rubbish skateboarding spin-off. The game's existence and cancellation also elicited much commentary on Sega's quality control process, with critics stating that they were surprised they cancelled this, but allowed so many other poorly received Sonic games such as Sonic 06 or Sonic Free Riders. When Sonic Riders was released several years later, Visionscape reportedly inquired about legal action, though the developer signed an NDA while working on Sonic Heroes for Sega, meaning anything created during that time with the Sonic property legally belonged to Sega.
Sonic DS. From Silent Hills to Doom 4, E3 is no stranger to announcing games that eventually go unfinished and become abandoned by their developers. Sega is guilty of this with Sonic DS, because back in 2004, they unveiled what would have been their first piece of Nintendo DS software. Unofficially known as Sonic DS, the UK Best official Nintendo magazine ran a piece on it which praised its visuals as being the best on the Nintendo DS, but also criticized it for having basic gameplay. The magazine compared it to being the Nintendo DS equivalent of the 100-meter dash. To play the game, the stylus must be moved left and right quickly on the touchscreen to make the character move faster. Jumping was possible by touching the top of the touchscreen, but this was hardly necessary as there were few platforming elements, and the level layouts are fairly basic and straightforward. After running for a certain distance, the players will reach a new level of what they called sonic speed, which causes the screen to blur. There are multiple levels of speed attainable. The HUD on the game screen had a timer, rings, and a bar on the bottom which indicated distance from the finish line. After passing the finish line, a ranking is given which is based off of the achieved max speed, rings, and the time taken to finish the course. The splash screen then appeared afterwards with a note to keep an eye out for Sega's title on the DS, leaving fans of the demo to expect more information on the Sonic game coming soon. Eventually, the game was cancelled and Sonic Rush became the first Sonic game for the Nintendo DS. As unfortunate as it was to see this game be unveiled at E3, raising the hopes for fans, eventually just to have them crushed with the cancellation, this isn't the only Sonic game that suffered the same fate. No list video would be complete without a few honorable mentions. First is Sonic Crackers. Sonic Crackers, referred to as Sonic Stadium in the ROM header, and often identified incorrectly as Sonic the Hedgehog 4, is a very early prototype build of Knuckles' Chaotix. Incorporating many of the elements that would appear in the final game, it also has a very retro art title screen, which many believe looks like it was thrown together in just 5 minutes. Sonic Crackers is thought to be an engine test composed of different game engines swapped out using RAM coding. Our second honorable mention is given the title Sonic's Edusoft. It can be looked at as being similar to the mini edutainment or educational Mario games that were released. It was in development by Tiertex Design Studios and was to be published by US Gold. Development began after the release of the original Sonic game, but would never actually be released. Our final honorable mention is Sister Sonic. Sister Sonic was an RPG follow-up for the Sega CD, which would have featured a female version of Sonic. Sega was to partner with Falcom, developer of the game Pop Full Metal, to rework some of its characters with characters from the Sonic franchise. The game was to star Sonic the Hedgehog's long-lost sister. However, the game was ultimately cancelled in favor of releasing an English translation of Pop Full Metal in 1995. Electronic Gaming Monthly stated that the whole scenario was a great example of the power of consumers' ability to directly influence a video game company's decision. Due to the game's cancellation, the Sonic franchise would not feature a role-playing game until 2008, when Sega contracted BioWare to develop Sonic Chronicles. Last but certainly not least is arguably the most famous unreleased Sonic game, Sonic X-Treme, with development of the game starting right after the completion of Sonic & Knuckles in 1994. Originally, it was intended to be a standard 2D platformer for the Sega Genesis. However, development for the game moved to the Saturn and Microsoft Windows, initially intended for a holiday 1996 release. However, the game went through a serious case of development hell. The game's leading programmers were split into two separate teams, one concentrating on developing the main game for the PC, and the other team focusing on porting those assets over to the Saturn while developing the free-roaming arena-style 3D boss engine. The programmers fixed camera side-scroller with the ability to move freely in all directions, and featured a fisheye camera system called the Reflect Lens that gave players a wide view of the action. As a result, levels appeared to move around Sonic. In March 1996, Sega of Japan representatives, including CEO Hayao Nakayama, visited STI headquarters to evaluate the game's progress. The video they used in this pitch is what you're seeing now. Ultimately, they were unimpressed with the main game's engine's performance on the Saturn. Therefore, Nakayama requested the entire game be reworked around the boss engine. To achieve this in time for the strict December 1996 deadline, Coffin's team moved into a place of isolation from further company politics and worked between 16 and 20 hours a day. In an act of desperation, the team even went as far as potentially using the game engine from Sonic Team's Nights into Dreams. And as helpful as this may have seemed, once word of this reached Mr. Sonic himself, Yuji Nako, he reportedly threatened to leave the company if it was used. Even though the developers were able to churn out a playable demo for the 1996 E3 convention, by August of that year, Chris Sen, one of the programmers, was told by his doctor that he only had 6 months to live. Though, don't worry, he's still alive today, thankfully. On top of this, another programmer suffered a severe case of pneumonia. With only one programmer left, a game that was not even half done, and only 2 months left before the deadline, Sega decided to delay the game, then officially cancelled it in early 1997. With the cancellation of X-Treme, Sega instead decided to concentrate on a port of the Genesis title, Sonic 3D Blast, and Sonic Team's Nights into Dreams for the 1996 holiday season. It's truly unfortunate to see how far this game could have gotten, however, lacked the resources and support to fulfill its true potential. However, this story may not have such a sad ending. In December of 1998 and June of 2001, the world was made witness to Sonic's true first 3D adventure in the Dreamcast classics Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 respectively. Considered by many fans as some of the best Sonic games ever made, and more recently in November of 2015, after years of research and near misses, Sonic fans finally tracked down the source code for a Windows version of Sonic X-Treme, but it ran only on PCs with a very obscure NVIDIA graphics card called the NV1, which was used for Saturn development, and created in collaboration with Sega. After some work bypassing this NV1 card requirement, it is now possible to play the first level of Sonic X-Treme on your PC. If you're a fan of videos like this that cover the history of cancelled games and consoles, be sure to subscribe, check out our Patreon to support this channel and the creation of new videos with your advice and input, and check out our top 5 cancelled games series and let us know what games you would like to see us cover in the future. So far we have lists covering the Zelda series, Mario, Nintendo, PlayStation, and plan to have dedicated videos covering a list of cancelled Sonic and Pokemon games, with this video being a taste of what to expect. What's up everybody, Game Over Jesse here, and if you enjoyed this video and are into awesome nerdy geeky content like we are, consider subscribing to Geek Fuel, a monthly subscription box that is guaranteed to have over $50 worth of great stuff in every box. You'll receive an exclusive shirt, games, collectibles, and other geek-related greatness. Use the link geekfuel.com/GameOverJesse to not only get $3 off of your subscription, but to help out our channel as well, which means more time to work on more videos for you guys. I want to thank you all for watching this video, and welcome to the end slate. If you're a fan of these videos, please subscribe and comment below to let me know your thoughts. If you would like to support this channel, please consider supporting on Patreon, where you can watch videos like this early, and help me create longer videos like the top 10 best and worst of Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, and the top 5 official Zelda games that have either been cancelled or just went unreleased. Finally, a huge thank you to this month's supporters: George Says Hi, Link Uses the Triforce, Transcendent Sacred Courage, Glenn Cassio, Prey Warrior, Victopedia, Rusty Caulfield, Robert W., Amanda Pina, Lunarium, Chris Gasparin, Harris Priest, Lovable Christie, Key of Time 15, Jerome Major, Daryl Quinnen, Furzin 16, Kadron, Magic Tech Review, and the Itch Network.